All right, welcome one and all to another hybrid Major League Attorney Matt. I'm Dargan Sky and I'm joined by Mama. How's it going, Mama?
Good. How about you?
Hey, hanging in there. I'm excited to watch, Furaime and Specks. We all know Specks exploded onto the scene with Specky Clip. All praise to Specks.
And Furaime dragged himself out of hibernation to play in a glitch tournament.
Brought himself out of retirement. Let's go.
So this is game 3 between the two. I will admit to not remembering games 1 and 2, although if you mention details, I'll probably be like, oh yeah, that was the one. I'm sure they were very exciting, especially because they each took a race from each other. Been a lot of really close races in the first rounds because, I guess because of the way the buys sorted the runners, that people actually got to race people who were close to their seeding level.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting setup in that regard, but it looks like we're off. Both starting from Link's house with just 20 rupees. And it looks like we got green pendant at Desert. Nothing too crazy so far.
Both of them opting to go straight to Sahasra's closet. Some runners will go here, and some runners will go to the bridge, and some runners will look at the RNG of the archer guard to see if they even can get to the bridge without having to do a dance.
Definitely a lot of variation possible in this mode. There's just so many places you can go since we start with the boots, and you can use that to do almost any overworld clip.
Yeah, the largeness of the search space is offset somewhat by how quickly you can get around. A lot of stuff that is orphaned and just terrible and no glitches is actually clustered together in glitch modes, and not just that, but fun to do, in my opinion.
Nice small key in the sink chest.
That's a good one to remember, because the small key in Hyrule Castle can be set up so that you can borrow it in Hera State and then spend it in Swamp. It's also good to remember that you got one of the dungeon items, so that when you're doing the other parts of the escape, you're counting correctly.
Either of them gonna go up the mountain. Now it just looks like regular lumberjack, and then maybe Specks is gonna go up the mountain after looping through Lost Woods here.
Usually when people are going this way, they are intending to climb to the top of the mountain at Lumberjack rather than the Old Man Cave.
A good one to learn. I keep forgetting that that's even a thing. I completely missed what was on the lumberjack ledge, but maybe we'll see it from Specks in a minute here. Heart container, says Spleeby. Thank you, Spleeby.
I was trying to parse that as Hyrule Castle, and I was like, what?
Understandable. Yeah, there's the red.
But is it the heart container of Hyrule Castle? The Saint Heart? We'll never find out until we get the Saint Heart from somewhere else.
Nice dash in.
Yeah, that's the hardest part of Lumberjack Ascent, is getting back in bounds. Getting out of bounds is easy. Getting in bounds is hard. Specks is rewarded with a bottle, which Furaime is not going to have going to Kakariko unless one shows up. So something's on Sick Kid that could be a bit of an issue. Another reason... Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, two things have... Yeah, whatever we were about to say is not as important as this flute that Specks is about to get, because while you don't need the flute, it is really nice to have it before Kakariko. Another thing, Furaime probably won't activate it, or even collect it.
Yeah, it's not super necessary in this mode. It's a lot more of a convenience item than a necessity, since we can just clip through the overworld and makes routing pretty nice and round. Ooh, are we seeing the hover? Let's go.
I saw Specks practicing this before the race. I guess we're going to pod now.
But no bombs.
Yeah, actually, I think Specks is leaving so that he can do Oh, that was really nice. So that he could do the old man rescue. He hasn't done that yet. That cave is not safe to dash through. Specs did some really good dodging. Almost like minimal amount of dodging necessary to get around the mold arms, which is something you normally expect from a very experienced runner, and Specs is pretty new.
Goes to show how much practice he's put in. My question was, after doing the lumberjack ascent, when was it good to go to old man? But now we see Specs here, so I guess you just go down after like checking that one cave whose name I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it makes sense that when you're in Spectacle Rock Cave and you haven't done Old Man yet, like walking out of Spectacle Rock Cave isn't nearly as bad as if you've already had a rescue and you're saving time, just saving and quitting if you fall.
Nice sword from the bottle vendor.
Quake and a sword showing up for Furaime and Kakariko. It's a bit of a meme that skipping Kakariko makes you miss out on basic stuff like swords. And you should just go there and get your swords.
I know that's the meta, but there's just so many items there. Nice bow as well. Be able to go right to that Crystal Eastern if he wants. I think it's just those three things, that bow, that sword, and that quake. So we'll see how that ends up for Specs, or if that quake is needed, or if looks like he's going to CAC right now. Never mind.
Specs has no reason to skip this now that he has a flute. Because you can get that back anytime. Even if you're orphaning something like Sick Kid, you can just get back.
That is true.
In fact, when I have a flute and I don't have a whole lot else in Kakariko, I am a fan of just leaving Kakariko and coming back for the other half of it later on.
Ooh, spicy. Take a peek into our green pendant desert here. Maybe finish it out. It might be worth it for that green pendant and the Saha turn-in. Being a glitched mode, we don't need the glove. Also a pretty good time for that shovel that Furaime just picked up, because you'll be able to just jump down after checking Cave 45 and then head back to Desert after that if you're planning on finishing it.
A little awkward that green pendant's on Desert, but the fire source was in Saha's closet. So you were never going to do green pendant and Saha together.
All hail the starting Saha row. I know we saw the shovel from Furaime's side, but I did not keep track of whether there was another item here in Desert. Looks like he's going for the big chest, so I'm going to say probably not.
Coming here because you have the flute and then forgetting to activate it is it's a thing I've done before. It's very easy to forget this.
Classic mistake. I think we've all done it at least once.
Ooh, an early escape play for Furaime.
That's spicy.
The entire thing is in logic with the fire rod and the small key.
It's true. It's just kind of the meta to put it off, because you typically want to wait for mirror so you can go down, or, you know, you can just go down at any time like Furaime's doing.
I actually kind of like doing it early now, because you're no longer pairing it with Pyramid Fairy nearly as often, because you can do it with a swim when you have Moon Pearl. And having lower HP in the escape is beneficial. And you don't have to worry about death warping on 7 hearts and whether it's faster to save and quit. You just have 4 or 5 and you can death warp much more easily.
That is true.
These days... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, interesting to have been around long enough to see the meta shift from my perspective at this point.
Another shift in meta that I'm seeing this year is people not doing all of GT when they're like one item from Go mode, and they'll just climb and then come back. Furaime finds the flippers in first chest of the escape. Those are required for Swamp and pretty much only Swamp.
Don't even need the hammer for Swamp in this mode, even without Specky Clip. Speaking of the hammer, there it is on Furaime's side in the escape.
That opens up one Spicy Pearl location. That is Super Bunny Cave.
Oh yeah, that is true. So now Specks is going to have the same choice as Furaime. Do you finish Desert Palace, or do you just leave it behind with so much else to do? Nice quick death work from Furaime.
Thimble Clips does make a good point. Pod is available and fully clearable. A little bit out of logic because of the lamp is not there, but I think people don't usually care about the lamp once you have a fire source. And if you have the fire rod, the back of Pod's not too bad.
That's true.
I expect to see Furaime take this all the way to the back. I don't think spending your Hyrule Castle key in the escape is bad. I think very rarely do we actually pull it into Hera. Much more likely to just have the Mire Medallion or have the Hera Small Key or have a Pendant Swamp and not need to do it at all.
Yeah, I think I can still count on one hand the number of times that saving the key would have been helpful. Because most of the time you just, like you said, get the Hera key or one of the other keys.
It's one of those things we do where we'll just go to the escape, Dark Cross, and we'll open the door because it takes only a few seconds. When it saves time, it saves minutes. Potentially it saves like finding Mire Medallion Go mode for Pendant Mire. So it's usually like not worth it, but when it's worth it, it's really worth it.
I missed what was in the back of the escape.
I looked at it and I think it was nothing. I think I completely tuned it out. I'm pretty sure if it was something I would have noticed.
Gotta love when that happens during a race and you have to be like, well, it was probably nothing.
What is this DMA? This isn't scoreless because we're not lined up with the tree. I mean, it probably is. It's probably just a setup I'm not familiar with. Nice second bow for Specks on the damn flooded item. That's a dupable bow if we didn't already have one.
Nice. Yeah, I've never seen this DMA. Interesting.
This is just Hera DMA, but like... Oh, yeah, I never considered these were the same. Yeah, this is just Hera DMA, but done from the top, which I'm not familiar with. You can do it with the new DMA setup, where you just don't do all of the new DMA, you transition early, and it takes you straight up here.
Interesting.
Mini Moldarm Cave giving us the mirror, which might incentivize Specks to go into the escape earlier than he might have. And the King of Samaria is there too, opening up yet another Spicy Pearl location. Now we have all of Turtle Rock except Trinex available, and everything not locked by the lamp in logic, unless it's medallion locked.
Yeah, at this point, if I were one of these runners, I'd be really crossing my fingers for the Moon Pearl.
If I was these runners, I'd be putting off the mountain, so I don't have to make that decision until I know it's there. I think I'd be doing Eastern and Pod, and then thinking about East Death Mountain.
Yeah, at least they have the hammer, so they don't have to do the mirror clip to get all the way over to Turtle Rock. No ruining the water walk from a heart piece today.
And first crystal down is actually Moldorm. I missed that Hera was accessible. It didn't have to be. The big key does not have to be downstairs, but it was.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, even though we just watched him climb all the way up. Funny how we both missed things.
Yeah, both items and the key. That's the God Hera. It means you can do Swamp without worrying about where you're getting your key. Or doing it more slowly from Mire, which is what the game expects you to do. Wonder if Furaime will even pick up this flute. I think you don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you do it on the way to Pod, but you don't pick it up if you don't plan to activate it. Oh, he's thinking about it. Has the bombs, but not going in. I'm not sure why. I think the problem with what's happening to Furaime right now is he hasn't actually rescued the old man. But I don't know why he's not doing it now.
Looks like he changed his mind, yeah.
I think I understand. Because he hasn't rescued the old man yet, he's picking up the flute, so he still has a way back up the mountain and can still go to Pop. Interesting choice.
That makes sense. But it also, like, when are you going to come back for old man? I guess this is
nice
I think that.
You just do the old man.
Yeah. I don't know, because like you've already done CAC, so...
Yeah, it's not inverted.
Yeah.
Furaime does have a reason to visit CAC. He has not actually checked Sick Kid, because the bottle was on the mountain and he hasn't been there yet.
That's true, and there could also be a powder at some point later, you never know.
Regardless, Furaime has decided that the ROI on the flute is worth it. Specks is in Moldorm too, but does not have the hammer, so this has to be an NMG fight. And no safeties available for like invincibility or anything, so this is just a straight NMG fight.
I like how we theorized that Furaime would activate the flute and come back to Old Man later, and here we are rescuing Old Man now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really was just decided that he wanted the flute, and it wasn't because of the old man. Surprising. Yeah, Specks feeling the lack of hammer here. Moldorm is not an easy fight on the attended equipment.
It's pretty rough for the third dungeon in the game to have a boss that just resets his health if you happen to fall down.
It also resets your NMG runs a lot.
That too.
Has a knack for that.
Even when we're good at this game, it's still hard. Here comes that flute activation for Furaime and Sick Kid check.
Specks being the first on East of Mountain. There's a cool thing you can do with the mirror where you go into the dark world and you put your portal here, and then you clip on top of the portal and let it take you back, and then you do the clip as a bunny, but you're not doing any one-frame clipping, you're just doing it in the light world. And that lets you start the dark world so that you can hit Super Bunny on the way back, but Specks is not doing that. So Super Bunny Cave, ooh, the lamp is here. Super Bunny Cave is not going to be checked just yet for Specks, unless two gloves show up, and even then I don't think you'd do it. The lamp does point towards Pod and Eastern pretty strongly, so it would be very surprising to see those put off for too long after, at least for the runners that have both the lamp and the hammer, which so far both of them are missing one or the other.
Especially with Specks having the mirror, I would think that it would be pretty high on his mind to be going that route.
We're hoping that, for Specks' sake, that he does the escape before pod. I would almost be tempted to just go to pod and not have the hammer. But it's not the worst thing in the world to double dip pod. It's not a huge trek to get back to. It's just a couple clips. That bomb placement for Furaime was pretty cool. You could actually stand at the door and still get the door open without taking damage. I don't know how he did that. Okay, here's a mirror for Furaime. Graveyard Ledge just checked for both runners. I don't think it was anything good.
Yeah, I completely tuned it out as well.
Furaime's choosing not to do Ice Rod Cave at this moment.
For the flute, that makes sense, because you can just go back at any time, really.
And Specks gets sword number 2 in Paradox Cave. So the sword and the lamp were available. That opens up another spicy pearl. Actually, it doesn't really, because we have mirror. But yeah, sometimes you can be required to defeat Aghanim. Not in the sea, we have the mirror. We just put a portal there and go there that way. Specks is doing the thing I predicted. The thing that I would have done in this situation, which is to go into pod without the hammer.
Do we even know if pod is a crystal yet? I don't think anybody's seen it.
Nobody has been to the Dark World yet. The only way to know is to clip to pod and look at your HUD.
Meanwhile, we did see the first glove from Hobo on Furaime's side.
Oh, there we go. That's an early item for other players, but not for these two. I don't know why I never considered just fluting to 8. After this, it's probably faster than water walking. Especially if you can get a water walk in here. And of course, Furaime has the flippers, so there's no water walk option at all, really, except to get there slightly faster. Oh, there was a heart, which would have been a problem if they were fake flippering and had a full heal.
Yeah. It's always the worst when you pick up that heart piece and get dunked.
Alright, small key and pod. Pod key logic is identical to non-glitched modes, even though we did open a free door. Opening the free door is non-logic, but it does make the routing a lot better.
Yeah, you just have to remember that according to the logic, you have one fewer small key than you actually have.
You have to learn to start counting your keys rather than looking at your key HUD, if that's what you're used to using for tracking. I used to have a thing where I'd be like, if I have 2 keys in the back, then it's, Harmless Hellway's not a key. But now it's like, well, now it's 3 keys because you have an extra key. It's so confusing. So you just start to count. Count to 4 in the front, 4 keys. Count to 2 in the back. Specks finds the pearl. I would say that's mild spicy. It's pod. It's not like Helmasaur, but it's pod.
Yeah. It's still Sphere 1 in this mode, though. Definitely not too bad of a location for it.
I used to get really excited for pod pearls when this mode was new. It's like, look at what this mode can do. It can put pearl in pod. It's so cool. And now I have, I eat enough spicy food, you get a tolerance for it. And now it's like, well, it can't just be in pod. It needs to be on Helmasaur with the lamp in Village of Outcasts.
Now we just have to wonder how much of the Dark World that Specks is going to do before making his way to escape for that hammer.
That's potentially a problem, because Specks could do... if I was Specks, I'd be going to Skull Woods, I'd be doing Thieves Town without the hammer. My route would end at the pyramid, and then I would get the hammer and the escape. Which, probably fine, but if there's something in the Thieves Town big chest, that can be a problem. If Thieves is a pendant, I'd be disincentivized to go in at all.
Oh, we talked about checking your pendant indicator earlier, and pod is a pendant. I don't know if we talked about that already.
No, I didn't think about it, but you're right. Specks not having the hammer here is no longer an issue. I think even if you have the hammer, you're probably not doing Helmasaur when it's a pendant.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely not when it's not green pendant. Even green pendant would be kind of a push, I think.
Green pendant pod's a weird one. If it's in logic, I'll usually do it because of how close the Hostula is. That's the only reason.
Yeah, if you have the mirror, I guess that makes sense. It just feels bad to take that much time and then get nothing at all for it.
That said,
would
I
be
am
my incentive.
very curious where this other pendant is because we can do 2 of the pendants already.
Here's our Dark World matchup.
Oh, it's Turtle Rock. Okay.
Yeah.
We're safe from Ped for a while. We don't... literally just the Ice Rod puts in logic, though, so we're not that safe. Hookshot is required in the seed. Minor Medallion's required. We could be Hookshot from no mode, I suppose, if Quake is the Minor Medallion. Specks would have to get the hammer out of the escape. And the flippers are there, too.
Yeah, 1 out of 3 chance for that Quake. Everybody cross your fingers. Or if you want a longer race, then cross your fingers for the other way.
And there's knowledge for Furaime. Furaime actually finding out Pod is a pendant before going in. Pod has the Moon Pearl, so I don't think he's going to miss out on that for very long. Oh, we have another medallion! It's an Eastern. This time it's combos. Furaime is in the Dark World as a bunny, looking at Super Bunny Cave, walking out of Super Bunny Cave, which usually means we're doing something in Turtle Rock. Furaime can do Mimic Cave as well, which could have had the Moon Pearl on the seed if it wasn't already in Pod.
Oh, I stepped back just in time to see that death. Was that intentional? Oh. Yeah, most likely. Just missed that one arrow on Spec's side. Darn. Otherwise, though, very clean fight.
Oh, did Specks leave behind an item in Eastern?
If he did, he's leaving it he's
Alright.
on the way.
Hope it's not Hookshot. Where is Specks going? Lots of Dark World available. This might be the thing I thought he would do, which is north to south route, Dark World. I'd be doing this too, even though I know where the hammer's in the escape. Because you can do Skull, you can do Hera, you can get your Meyer Medallion information. If Meyer's a crystal, you can also do that. Oh, sorry, if Meyer is the medallions we have, you can do that.
Yeah, here's the Death Mountain descent.
Mirror and Flute is an interesting combination of items to have because it means you don't save and quit very often, and it means that the clips that can hardlock are just a little bit more dangerous. Okay, I have a PSA for everybody who does this. I really like the idea of mirroring, doing these checks with the mirror if you haven't done them already. You can clip directly to them from the mountain the same way you can do in the light world. The clip is identical in the light world and dark world, so you can do graveyard ledge descent and then mirror, and you'll get there much quicker than if you did the other descent.
Ah, interesting.
Powder shows up too in that Sphere 1 location, King's Tomb. But Powder itself is not Sphere 1. Checking Powder requires either the mirror or the hammer, but not the mitts. You can get there without mitts. We used to require this like stupid wrap that you could do, but it's now a sequence break, so you don't have to do it.
Furaime's doing the mirror clip to get to Dark Death Mountain on the southern side. I wonder, is this faster than just going across the top and going through TR?
Through TR to do what?
Or sorry, the Turtle Rock portal. Oh, it's the descent.
Yeah, it's the descent. Yeah, we're not doing East Death Mountain. Furaime's already been to East Death Mountain, so this is, this is not the big. This is Village of Outcasts, Skullwoods. Furaime can do 2 checks in Village of Outcasts and can do Skullwoods, but cannot do Tower of Hera from this position as a bunny.
Interesting.
Unless he does something fun with this bumper ledge item, but I don't know, he's boomer enough for that. Okay, good. Yeah, Furaime knowing that Pot as a pendant is actually a detriment at the moment. Pretty disincentivized to go in there. But I'm surprised that he hasn't been in Eastern yet, because that is extremely in logic and easy to do, and a crystal.
There's a crystal, yeah. Sphere 1, all that. I can kind of see the appeal of both, though, because like if the Moon Pearl does happen to be here, then it would be pretty big, because the odds of your opponent doing it is pretty small. But it's still a pretty crazy or interesting decision. Risky, that's the word I was looking for.
Ooh, Furaime getting a bad key layout in the front of Skull. You naturally do a one and done style Skull when you're death warping in here. And you really hope to find a small key so you can get the rest of the front checks. Or at least get one item so you can leave and then get the other item that's probably in the back. The item's usually in Moth if you've already found one, just because of the way the key layout is. The keys just can't be there, so it's more likely to be the item. Nice fight for Specks. Really had that under control the entire time. And the Ice Rod shows up for Pendant TR, so that's an in-logic pedestal. Let's go. At least for no mode sake. Like, Specks doesn't have a hammer, so doesn't have to worry about pet until the escape. And by then, probably we'll have found something better to do.
I think the only things that could possibly be there at this point would be that ether or that hook shot, right?
Those are the items that we know to be go mode items.
Right.
Specks needs a glove, and there's a glove on Hobo, but who knows when he's going to get there. He's going to pass by that area in the Dark World and not have the flippers yet, so won't be able to do the mirror check. It's almost certainly going to have to be a dedicated save and quit go to Hobo check.
Not too often we see it put off that long these days with the fast clips. I know when I started Overworld Glitches, it definitely was a later on thing a lot of the time, because you had to do that teleport down beneath the screen transition to go across. It took a lot longer.
Nice use of splash damage for Furaime. Like, I think Furaime was almost like aiming for spikes and hitting Moth. Furaime has to finish Skull if there's still an item here, and has a much more limited set of items that he can get in Village. But
And
when he does
since
get there with his pearl, he will have the hammer available for Beast Town, and that could matter. He
where are
could
you
also
going
just
next?
he could just not get pearl too. Like, you don't need the moon pearl, but you are almost certainly losing time every minute that you don't have it. It's like having boots and no glitches. It's just such a speed boost compared to not having them.
Right, having to go back into the dark world so often can really just eat up a lot of your advantage or a lot of your time.
This mode used to be just called major glitches and used to require all these bunny one-frame clips, and it was so... I liked it, but it was so unraceable because one player would just find the Moon Pearl and, oh, there's a glove for Specks. And then the player with the Moon Pearl would win. So what do? We split the mode. You can still play major glitches, but hybrid major glitches restricts the Moon Pearl so you can at least find it more easily. And there's a version of major glitches where the Moon Pearl's deleted and you don't have it at all. If I can't have the Pearl, neither can you.
I don't see a lot of major glitches played anymore. I think most people just opt for no logic at that point.
I made this because nobody was racing it. Because all the players who were brave enough to race major glitches just played no logic, which is a very different mode. It doesn't feel anything like playing this.
Yeah, you add all those hook bushes and various other stuff that I don't know about in the no logic.
I always thought that no logic was easier than major glitches because you have so many more tools available. But hybrid major glitches is like only a little bit harder than overall glitches. Nice recovery on the God Pixel for Specks. Furaime running out of checks that he can do as a bunny. He could get back here with some fake flute link state shenanigans, but I think he's trying to stay in logic. And this looks like a pod play.
Yeah, at this point there's so little left. Whoa.
Oh,
Hold
where are
on.
we going? Pyramid Fairy?
Yeah,
We haven't done Pyramid Fairy yet. Could also be one frame clipping to GT, but I don't think Furaime does that. The Moon Pearl is in Pod, and they're supposed to get there by clipping to Pod in a cave. Puts you inside Pod, still in the light world because he never actually left the light world. Which means that the checks in Pod that you can get to without hammer and bow and so on are a Sphere 1, and that means the Moon Pearl can be there. The old bush deck, I always forget this. This is the way it's taught in the old guides. Pick up a bush and walk into the portal. Nowadays, I think we key dash. That is, we try to nudge those, like, little bush things, the little yellow bushes, so that we enter on a consistent pixel. It makes it easier to get out. And
I thought that mirror looked a little low, so I was curious what he was going to do. I've never seen that one. Right, now we're seeing the Eastern play. At this point, is this just a conscious decision to put off Pod? I guess it must be.
It's so hard to convince yourself to go to Pendant Pod, especially when you have the ability to do the whole thing.
Nice clean blind fight from Specks. And there's our hook shot. So at this point, I think we're just waiting on the Meyer knowledge for us to be in no mode, at least.
That's a lot of no mode, because Specks is missing 2 items. They're both in the escape, but still, like, It's a lot Specks can't do right now. I would say it's very fortunate for Specks that this scape is holding both of the items, not just one of them, because it does limit his search space. Yeah, there was a glove sitting in the front of Thieves. Furaime is really just in a position to be in hookshot go mode too, assuming it's not Ether, because he's just gonna get the Pearl and Pod eventually and go to Thieves. He might even go to Thieves without the Pearl, if he really decides he doesn't want to do Pod, which probably not a good position for the race, but getting to see somebody play without Pearl and finish the game that way is pretty fun. It's a good way to go out.
I haven't caught every match, but I don't know if we've seen that at all this tourney yet.
I think I saw a qualifier, I think it was Nobly, who didn't get Pearl. So, if you're asking like how do you beat the game without Pearl, Fake Flute is a glitch where you drink a blue potion on a screen transition, and it gives you a flute menu in the Dark World. And when you land, you're a Super Bunny, and if you pull on a tree that has a tree pull ability, it's the wrong medallion Specs. If you pull on a tree, it'll turn you into Link, which means that you can wander the overworld as Link and get things like opening this mire entrance. I love that Specs didn't notice that he had bombos out. That's pretty good. But it also means that Specs is in like escape is go mode, and Furaime is in Thieves Town is go mode, and maybe Pod if we need the Pearl.
It'd be definitely interesting to see if Furaime ends up getting that hook shot and deciding whether you keep like looking for Pearl or if you just try to finish the game, because doing all those fake flutes just, you know, it takes a lot of rupees and time if you're not safe scumming everything. But I would think you would try to finish without it.
Yeah, you do it if you're... Okay, some people are really dedicated to the meme, and you're on Restream, it might influence your decision. You're probably not saving time. By the time you've done everything and found your go mode, you probably know what the Pearl is. Just get the Pearl.
Yeah, that's a fair point. There's only so many places it can be.
Oh, Furaime's doing this like weird... Oh, it's silvers. It's just a silver strat, okay. It's probably a fast silver strat. I think most people just phone it in when they have silvers. But you can save time if you know the strats. Especially Ice Armrest. Ice Armrest is a really cool silver strat.
Is this the pod play?
No, it's not a Kiki, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a swamp play.
You can still turn around and go back.
Yeah. Sometimes you also just like try to Kiki and you fail. But that didn't look like a try. Maybe he's just thinking like, oh, there's something in here. Checking his menu or something to see if there's an item in there. So Furaime will be getting the Pearl. This wasn't going to be a Pearless seed until Furaime starts busting out the fake flutes and going to Thieves anyway. Because the hookshot's there.
Shoutouts to having 255 small keys in Cave State.
And 555 rupees. Furaime's very close to getting the pearl. I wonder if he'll just leave. Or if he'll stay. It's so tempting to just leave. But you're in pod and there's usually stuff here. The Furaime's one item from Go mode. Plus Meyer knowledge, so...
Yeah, I think you at least do the back.
Yeah, you don't do Helm. You definitely don't do Helmosaur.
Yeah.
When you're one item Go mode, I think that would be like you feel behind. I don't think Furaime has a reason to feel behind.
Yeah, I don't think those bunny checks took that long where he's gonna feel super behind.
Specks has a similar decision to make, which is that Green Pendant Desert was available. And I think Specks also being 2 items from Go mode, we'll just skip it. Specks has really no reason to even visit Sahasrahla anytime soon, so getting the Green Pendant wouldn't do much.
Yeah, we're leaving.
I don't know if Specks did Magic Bat. Did you see that?
I am not sure. I don't think so, but
I think
could have missed it.
Yeah, that's interesting because Specks is not 1 item Go mode. He's 2, so there's a little bit more reason to do it.
Pretty bold choice to skip it.
I think Specks would want to at least do the clip and not burn his portal there. And the clip is a little bit of an investment. You know, you have to mirror, then you have to do a bunch of clipping, and then you have to go back in your portal. You have the flute, you can just go back anytime. So I can see the justification for skipping it. Turns out Oh. Where's Specks going? This is not the escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, to go to the escape, Specks would have to do some clipping to get around the hammer pigs. And if he doesn't know those clips, or know them very well, it's not that easy to do. And Specks might actually be doing the escape here instead, using the portal. This could also be Ganon's Tower. I can't think of anything else it would be.
Yeah, a lot of GT out of logic without that hammer, but you can still go across that right side with the cane and the fire rod, and if you get the big key, I could see clearing it out now.
If you get the big key, that's also a path to the escape. Specks has all the bases covered for escape.
That is true.
Ooh, not even a small key, so... I mean, we haven't seen Torch yet, but probably not in logic to go any farther than Tile Room here. Furaime's about to be in Hookshot Go mode because of the Ether medallions here, so there's no Meyer question anymore.
Oh, I thought he was going to Ice Palace for a second there. Due to a recent logic change, Ice is no longer in logic without the mitts since the wraps were taken out of logic. So it makes sense to not go there until either you find mitts or you're in Go mode.
Specks will continue. The value of finding Big Key here and being able to finish now and route it into the escape is pretty good. And I'm not super clear on the logic. I don't know if 1 key is enough to put this in logic, but it is available. I don't think Specks can even unlock enough doors to run out of keys, so I think this should be in logic. But GT logic is a little bit hacked, so I'm never certain.
I'll take your word for it. I think my races have shown that I definitely don't know GT key logic.
Specks has the mirror out. Why would you have the mirror out? Nope. Okay, we're gonna continue. Get the key here. And then keep going.
Okay. Shifted off the mirror.
Like, if Ice Armos isn't in logic, like the compass chest isn't in logic either, so why would you do one and not the other? But Specs is continuing. Specs using some iframe strats. There's a strat for this room that you can use to start the firebar cycle so that you can just walk and not have to dodge anything. But it's a little slower than using invents. So both runners are even on full clearing mire, or at least having the opportunity to. I don't know if Specs actually full cleared mire and got both items, or if he just gambled that something wasn't in the firelock chest or something. Ooh, a nice sword.
Sure.
Sometimes breaking GT can be valuable, and ooh, there's a big key! Let's go. Specs can do the escape. This is looking really good for him, but Furaime is also about to go to Thieves Town pretty soon. So, really it's just Specs being ahead on dungeons that puts him ahead. And assuming he actually does mirror and go to... Oh, doesn't climb the tower!
Oh no.
That's fine.
Where do you go now instead, though?
Where do you go? You can do... I mean, like I said, there are like 5 paths to the escape. But he can also do pendant TR, which is, you know, the escape's a pendant, TR's a pendant. What's the difference?
This is true.
I also think a Hookshot Cave is really tempting. If I was Specs, I'd be tempted into Hookshot Cave and Catfish. I probably wouldn't take it beyond that. But it's so quick to get these checks. These, I think, are more valuable than the escape. Lacking any other knowledge. Turtle Rock versus the escape is a bit of a harder decision to make. Because I think Turtle Rock is slower. The escape has the Uncle. So that's 2 checks immediately you can get.
Did Specs check the back of Escape at all? I didn't see. If he did, I could see putting it off longer because you have a few items back there.
Specs hasn't been to the back of Escape.
Plus you get to do Hookshot Cave here as well.
Specs got the glove in his Dark World loop, and then immediately went to the mountain.
Interesting. We are going to open the front of Turtle Rock, it looks like.
Well, that's interesting. Do you think he goes in, or is he just doing this opportunistically so he could fight Trinex later and then walk out?
I say if you open it, at least check the front chest. I don't know if you go all the way through, but...
I agree.
Have a rogue item in the front.
When you have the mirror, checking the front is probably faster this way than doing it from the back. He is going in. So it's just really giving time back to Furaime that he's getting very close to not being able to afford to lose. He's still a little bit ahead on progress, but he's not that far ahead anymore. Furaime just has to go to Thieves Town and be in go mode. Has to do the same amount of GT that Specs has done because of where the big key is. Furaime will probably take the other path, the hammer path, and could even take a longer path, like a magician route, and lose a little bit of time in there.
Now, do you leave? Nope, he's going back in.
He's getting the compass chest. When you do the right chest first and then the compass chest, you're usually going forward if you are given enough keys.
I'll be honest, I assumed I had missed the compass chest pickup.
The rando meta now is you do the other ones first. It's actually faster to do this one second if you're going to continue. But if you weren't going to continue and you were just going to get the first 3, you would do this one first. And Specks, this is, premeditated. Like, Specks intended to go through Chain Chomps if Chain Chomps allowed him to, which it does. He has enough keys for it. Furaime, meanwhile, going up very, very close to his go mode. He's actually already done most of Village of Outcasts and just has to do Bombable Hut and Thieves. Okay, I was gonna say something about the mitts, but Furaime's gonna be in go mode coming out of this. The mitts are good because Ice Palace is a little bit faster from a save and quit if you have the mitts.
That's true, especially with Flute.
I don't know if you do Ice last though. I think you would probably do Swamp into Ice and then climb GT. And if you're doing Swamp into Ice, you're using the mirror to get in and not the mitts.
Ah, that's true. I still think it might be faster to mirror, though, and just jump in with the mitts than try to go for the wrap if you're not fast at it. I guess it depends on how fast you are at it.
Specks, unfortunately, barking up some trees that will not yield fruit.
Yeah, you can't really blame them, though, because there were a lot of items here, too, and there's just so much to do in this mode that putting off Escape isn't a bad play by any means. It's just happened to be the wrong play this time around.
That was a great, 4-dash Hellway for Furaime. On the God Pixel for a million years and never got the good RNG to dash through. How many items are in the castle? I don't know. There's 2 in the Uncle. There's 3 in the back, 3 in the front, 1 in the middle, and 1 in Tank. 2 of them are map and small key.
Yeah, it's 6 non-dungeon items in Escape.
It's a lot. It's like a big dungeon. But it's also multiple dungeons. It's kind of hard to judge. I think Specks will do Trinix.
I don't know, maybe because having to come back here later would be extra slow. Or I guess if you just mirror wrap, maybe not, actually.
The Specks can mirror out and do Catfish, but it can also fight Trinix and have that take him out.
Yeah, either way, they'll make it to the top. Looks like he's opting to fight Trinix, though.
Maybe there's an item there. Being this far behind in pendants, I wouldn't do it just for a pendant. And having the book, you could just check bed. But this is probably an item. I'm trusting Specks on this one. I suppose there could be an item in the big chest that we don't know about. I don't think Specks went there.
Yeah, I didn't see big chest.
Nice fight for Specks. Nice fight for Furaime. Cane of Burna and a pendant. And a significantly more important hook shot for Furaime and a crystal. It really goes to show how the seed is going for both of them.
Yeah, I think Specks is running out of high density locations that aren't escape though, so I could see doing catfish and probably making his way there pretty soon.
Yeah, it is pretty close. I mean, Specks is still ahead on dungeon progress, but not by that much. Furaime's in go mode. I'd say Specs ahead on dungeon progress, but I'm not counting the escape. And escape is a dungeon that Specs has to do to get the items he needs. He'll probably do the back first, which will cost time. So I would give the advantage to Furaime still. Furaime will pick up a tempered sword because it's next to the big key, so there's no difference there.
Pulled up Spec's personal stream, and it looks like he is heading to the Pyramid Ferry area. So we're probably going to lead him to escape right after that.
That is really good. It appears that he walked there and is about to possibly clip to the Pyramid Ferry using the swim clip rather than the mirror. We got Specs back.
I might have been a little ahead on the personal stream.
Oh, the personal stream's always a little ahead. Yeah, we were spoiling. Sorry. Spoiler alert, Specs is going to the pyramid.
Not like this.
Oh no. Specs is actually, these freezes are actually his end. I'm seeing the stream jump around a lot. He's in the uncle. It looked like he went back in time and then forward in time again. But I think we can do a little slightly spoilery report on what's happening there. Meanwhile, Furaime is going through ice.
Just missed the spin clip.
Yeah, but didn't miss it in the bad way. It still got in the stairs. That's what counts.
Didn't get stuck. That's the most important thing. But yeah, it looks like Spec's going to be in go mode here in just about a minute or so.
Yeah, now Furaime is ahead in Ice Palace, behind in GT. Very close race. Furaime has a potentially could be slower cold stare fight, but I think with Fire Rod and Half Magic, you can make it very fast just by spamming and aiming. I'm told that you should spin cold stare to the left instead of the right with Fire Rod because the splash damage is a little better going in that direction. But he keeps it under control.
Furaime's going to go to Swamp through Hera since we have that small key. Doesn't have to worry about going back to Mire. We'll take a nice clean route, go to GT afterwards, and be done.
And there's go mode for Specs, saving and quitting, wasting no time. Did not even getting the small key on the guard. So Specs save and quits to the mountain. This is probably going to be a swamp into ice, whereas Furaime elected to use the mitts that Specs doesn't have to go to ice from a save and quit. Slightly different routing. Both of them make sense based on the equipment they have. Alright, a lot of these races, when they're this close, do come down to how clean people's swamp to Hera to swamp clips are. Furaime got some bad RNG from the Kadongo and had to wait it out. Not his fault. But this bomb clip is a little bit, I don't know, I think it's harder. You have to sometimes adjust your pixel because you get bombed in a different direction. Not in a different direction, but just a different amount. And it is a teleport. So it requires a... Yeah, I got an up teleport there. Specks is already actually tied up with Furaime in this clip specifically, although they do have different dungeons progressed. Oh, does Specks have flippers?
I saw Specks grab them on the personal stream.
I didn't know.
They were in the first keyguard chest.
That's right. It was I was thinking it was on Hobo, but Hobo had the glove. So yeah.
Right.
I've been talking like Specks just needed to go to the escape, and I should have trusted that. But Hobo threw me off a little bit. Thinking that he had to go there for a while. Specks is ahead in Swamp Palace now, having a easier time clipping through, and we get to see a little clip from him soon. That what is that clip called? I forgot.
I don't know. Probably named after someone, I think.
I wonder if Furaime even knows Specky Clip. Is he too boomer to know?
He does say he's pretty boomer, so who knows?
He's doing like some pretty boomer DMDs. I think he even did that mirror one with Moonpearl once.
At the same time, though, you can learn Specky Clip just by watching it, so who knows?
It's people say it's free, and it is, if you know what to do, but it's also, there is a pretty critical step that a lot of people get wrong, which is you actually do need to line up to the rail if you want it to be consistent. You can see, like, Specky's on the rail, it doesn't lose time to be on the rail, and it does set up your pixel so that you're on the right subpixel when you hit the bomb. Otherwise, you have I think a 1 in 4 chance of failing.
Don't you also have to move back in one smooth motion?
Yes, so there's a little bit of a timing element. You have to know how long it takes for your bomb explosion to be on screen. Luckily, bomb explosions are on screen for 1,000,000 years, so err on the side of late. Here's Furaime doing it without normalizing the subpixel, and you can see it fail. And he is short on bombs. Got lucky in the second one, so that's good. That could have been a huge time cost if he had ran out of bombs and had to backtrack. Or I guess just flood the dam.
Furaime's going to open up a couple extra chests here to look for that tempered sword that he doesn't have.
That's a really good point. Furaime will get the tempered sword because of where it is. It's near the GT Big Key, but he doesn't know that. So there's chests in Swamp. You always open these when you're looking for a sword. They're right there. A few seconds. That's, you know, putting Specks ahead in Swamp Palace when Specks was actually not the first one to enter Hera. Another thing is that Argus on Tempered Sword is a lot easier than Argus on Master Sword. Even if you're really good, it's still faster, optimally.
A long time ago, I saw Furaime going for one cycle Master Sword, so we'll see.
Okay, Furaime skips the key, yes! I love to see it. When you have the Swamp Small Key, because you opened chests in Swamp and got it, and you're in Go mode, you get to skip that Phelps Room key. It's so good.
Oh darn! Dropped it.
Yeah, it's like the Zero Cycle strat, but like way worse. And you're not going for 0 cycles. You're just going for like approximating the speed of a tempered fight, and it's still not the speed of a tempered fight. Okay, here's Specks going for Ice Palace. Very important that he doesn't hardlock here. I think he's in a slight lead, but not by that much. So he really does need to get this quickly to stay in the race.
Doesn't Furaime still have to climb GT though, or did he do that already?
Furaime is behind by getting the GT Big Key, and Specks, neither of them has climbed GT, but Specks...
Well, that's true.
Specks, you're fine.
Specks,
okay.
You're good.
Stop doing this to me. Specks was like on a good pixel several times and kept buffering up and down. You have a lot of pixels available to you. that work. As long as you tap down after you transition, you can be quite low.
I forgot that Specks didn't climb, so it is a lot closer than I was thinking it was.
Yes. Furaime doesn't have the GT big key, and Furaime has a bigger search space for it. So Specks went in there without the hammer, went to Ice Armos from the right side because it was the only thing he could do there. Furaime can also do the left side. He can do like a magician route that gets the GT big key last. There's a lot of things that Furaime can do that lose time. Furaime, by the way, will not find a small key in Hope Room. So if this is a Hope left route, Furaime's not going that way. This will probably just be a Hope right route. This is probably just a Hope left route, which is it's fine. It's better than Magician. Like if Furaime's biggest time loss would have been do Stalfos Room first and then mirror out at Compass Room, and that's not what he did.
True.
Specks did do Tile Room. It was, I think, like a map or an item. It was not a key. Furaime is probably not going to do Tile Room. We don't do Tile Room in Go mode. We do Tile Room when we're not in Go mode because we want to have the GT Big Key before we get to the GT Big Chest and not have to double dip that area if we can help it.
Alright, but when you're in Go mode, you don't have to worry about the big chest. So, here we are.
And now we have, I think, Specks taking a lead. Because Specks is already in Cold Stare. Furaime is not at Ice Armos yet. Specks still has to clip to GT, but that only takes like less than a minute, I think. Another really nice 6 slash from Specks.
Yeah, that was really good.
Furaime's really feeling the effect of having Hammer and GT. Just the search space is so big here. This would have been a different race if the GT Big Key was hammer locked and Specks hadn't gotten it yet, or if it was just sitting in Hope Room and Furaime gets it early. Oh no, Specks has actually gone lost connection. I hope he's local recording this.
Yeah, hopefully. I just closed his personal stream too. Darn.
Throw a panic basket in his chat and see if he notices. He probably knows he's losing frames, but I really don't want to have to DQ Specks for having no end game.
That would be very sad.
Meanwhile, Furaime is picking up GT Big Key and Sword, which are both here. Glad he gets the sword first. I don't know. You probably open all three still.
Yeah, without tempered sword, definitely still open all three. I think it's not that much time. Big payoff if it is a sword.
Okay.
Nice mimics.
Spoiler alert,
Oh,
Specks is
almost.
back. Specks is in the climb, just approaching Lambo 2. It's hard to tell how ahead they are at 1:15:08, which is pretty far ahead of what we're seeing on stream. Specks is past the land mode 2. So we'll see where Furaime is at 1 15:08 to see how close they are. Otherwise, we should be seeing Specks on stream very soon. There we go. Now we see where they are. It's very close. It's just a few rooms apart. Gauntlet, half of Gauntlet and Lambo 2 for Specks.
Oh, just missed the third.
Yeah.
Lambo.
I would say even a Moldorm fall could make this even. That's wasting absolutely no time picking up checks. Really nothing to do here. Nothing to find here except gold swords, so makes sense. I know Specks likes to use the cape in the Agatu fight. Taking out Berna for a similar reason. I've noticed Specks just has a really good grasp of quick swapping items and using them on the fly for things you wouldn't normally think to use them for, and invincibility on Moldorm 2 is actually OP, and not enough people make use of it.
I can't believe I haven't thought of that sooner. That's really smart.
Furaime with Moldorm 2, let's see how this goes. Furaime really cannot afford a fall, so it's a kind of a scary spin. Really needed that to connect or else he would have rebounded. Spec's having a little bit of trouble on Agatu. These patterns are not friendly and there's some blue balls. That one could have been maybe a triple, but one of them missed, and the other two hit at roughly the same time, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, without hearing the game audio louder, really hard to tell. Man, these are very difficult patterns.
Yeah, these are tough, and now they're a little out of sync. I think this will be the final. There we go. Furaime approaching. We'll see how he handles these patterns.
Yeah, I could make up a little time here.
Ah, yeah, see, that's a pattern where Specks would have brought out the cape. Furaime instead uses an NMG strat where you damage boost on the Aghanim, but still gets, also thwarted by that second cycle. Furaime manages to get 2 hits on the third cycle. And 2 hits on the fourth cycle. So they're both having rough times. It's a hard fight. And this particular pattern, they get the same number of cycles.
No clipes.
No clipes. Furaime only has 3 hearts too. I mean, not saying that he will hug Ganon, but he has a little bit of time to gain on Specks now because Specks did not get 1-1. I don't even know if Specks went for 1-1, or if he just does 2-1 by default. He gets a good pattern for 2-1. Making good use of that Berna, but Berna does cause a ton of lag, which will add to the potential time save that Furaime has if he can pull off the 1-1 Ganon. So let's see, we get the Trident spin successfully, setting up for that bottom left corner Ganon.
Yeah, I think Furaime's got it. Oh no!
Furaime was got. No! Specks was... Okay, Furaime has a fairy. It's a time loss he can't afford, but I think he was already behind anyway. So, it wasn't like that cost the race. But definitely very close race regardless of the fairy death.
Yeah, excellent. And put your GGs in chat for Specks.
Their second really close race. as Furaime finishes with an official race time of 1:19:32. Sorry, Specks finishes with 1:19:32. Furaime about to get some silver hits in.
Or are we going to see Fire Rod slide? Oh, never mind. I thought that was the last hit. Ignore me.
And that is Furaime finishing. And Specks joining us. GG.
Thank you, GG. Oh wow, Furaime just finishing. Wow, that was a nice race.
Good race,
Dang.
yeah. Pretty exciting one. It was you were actually you had different dungeons to finish. With Furaime you had to do GT Big Key and climb, and you had to do Ice Palace and climb. So we didn't really know who was ahead. You actually gained a lot of time on him in Swamp because of surprise, surprise, your grasp of the Specky clip, and also the Herita Swamp clip went a little bit better. And then Furaime having the hammer and GT had a little bit more search space for the GT Big Key and spent more time in there than you did.
Yeah, that was like, I didn't feel great when I saw the flippers and hammer. I'm like, that's just HMG that happens. So I'm like, I'm not gonna feel bad about it. But I didn't feel great because I'm like, you know, I could have had it so much sooner. But then I'm like, the one caveat is like, I'll do less of GT. So I didn't know that was a potential trade-off. So it sounds like that is what happened and helped me out. So yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm curious, you were in GT and you had the option to climb. You probably knew it wasn't in logic. I don't know if it was in logic, but you probably knew. I think you probably know that better than I do. You chose not to climb GT, even though flippers could have been there and it would have led to the escape. What was the reasoning behind that decision?
Yeah, so I knew I needed flippers and hammer, and there were almost no small keys right side. So I knew like climb was hammer locked, and I'm like, I know from the past I tend to do the early climb, and then I end up wasting time at the end when I have to go it again, and it's not very fast. So I'm like, flippers are very unlikely to be on the climb. Let's just put it off. I have so many other checks. It's more likely not on the climb. So I figured I should delay it.
Yeah, so you went to Turtle Rock instead, which made sense because of where you had the hookshot. Hookshot Cave was really good, and I acknowledge just that I think I would have gone to Hookshot Cave too if I was deciding where to go for the next save and quit. That's a really good location to get a ton of checks. But Hookshot Cave does come with that Turtle Rock baggage, and that did slow you down. Not enough to lose the race, but enough to make it very close.
I didn't want to do Turtle Rock, but I'm like, when I still had all of Escape to do and Uncle and Pyramid stuff, you know, there's still so many other things to do. But I'm like, this is fully in logic, and if I don't do it now, and it has one of my items, which it very easily could, it's gonna be a lot slower. So I felt like I kind of had to do it at that time. So, you know, I also realized I never did backup Escape, which I realized towards the end of the race, like when I was looking for Go Mode, and that felt bad. And I'm like, well, it's gonna be a while before I save and quit again. I hope Backup Escape has the answer, not Backup Escape. So that felt a little bad too.
That won you the race though, so you know you can feel bad, but we all make decisions that ultimately we don't have enough knowledge to know if they're good or not. I'm a big fan of just doing the escape, but you had a lot of stuff to do that was better, so I can't blame you for it.
Yeah, with HMG, the spheres are just so big that you can't feel too bad for putting anything off for any amount of time, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I should have backup Escape sooner. That was an oopsie on my part. But like Fun of Escape and Pyramid stuff, like I had so many options, and it's just like that's what I'm gonna do eventually. Arguably, I shouldn't have done GT, but I lost game 2 because I was reluctant to go to GT. So I'm like trying to change it up a little bit. But yeah, it's as you said, Sky. It's like there's so many. The spheres are so large. You have a lot of choices, so all you can only do is like pick reasonable choices that are pretty efficient and let you check a lot of items and hope you pick the right choices and you do it faster than your opponent.
It's true. I've actually got to head out for a prior commitment, but I just really quickly wanted to shout out the runners, Specks and Furaime, and also Malmo for adminning this tourney and putting in all the legwork for the restreams and everything. Big shout outs to Malmo.
And of course, there's Tracker Darkened Sky, who made it possible for us to have 2 comms instead of just one, so that's always awesome to have. And of course, tracking itself is very important for these races.
Drunk future self.
Drunk speaker self, what did I say?
You said me.
I said Dark Sky. I was looking at your name in chat.
Whoops.
You were the one of the 3 of us who didn't sign up for tracking, and I said your name. So, yeah, that one's on me.
Excellent.
But yeah, this round leads into Specks versus Someone 325. Does the second round 3 pairing that we've been given. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Where does Furaime drop to? Furaime will be facing PH112358, and that's going to be pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, fun matches. Yeah, Sky, thank you for coming. I know you're gone, but thank you anyway. And Malmo, yeah, thank you for this tournament and doing so much for the tournament and in the restreams and for coming today's match. Really hope I got to play Furaime. I mean, I know they're probably not. They probably play it to really wanted to. I know they'll still do resting in the mode. I mean, I didn't play it to where I wanted to either. I had some oopsies here and there, but overall, I can't complain. The big stuff I hit. So yeah, thanks everyone. I'm looking forward to playing someone in round 3 and see what happens. And thanks to DFS for tracking, and thanks everyone for watching.